the soldier who refused to believe World War II had ended. The Archivist Files. Case file hash 003, the soldier lost in time. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that everything you've believed for the last 30 years was wrong. Not a mistake, not a rumor, everything. Now imagine discovering it while holding a rifle in a jungle. Because that's exactly what happened to one man. A man who spent nearly 3 decades hiding in the wilderness, still fighting a war that had ended years before. He saw newspapers. He saw photographs.
And so the ceasefire holds. A monumental day for the administration as the longest conflict.
He heard radio broadcasts. He even found written proof. But he believed every single piece of evidence was a lie. And what finally convinced him to surrender? Sounds completely unbelievable. This is case file number 3. The soldier who became trapped in time. Act 1, the final order, December 1944. World War II was reaching its end. Japan was losing. American forces were advancing across the Pacific. And on a small Philippine island called Lubang, a young intelligence officer named Hiroo Onoda received an order. An order that would change the rest of his life. Before leaving, his commanding officer looked directly at him and said, "No matter what happens.
No matter what happens, do not surrender. Do not take your own life. We will come back for you."
At the time, it sounded like a normal military order. But what nobody knew was that Hiroo Onoda would follow those words for the next 29 years. But here's the question. How do you accidentally miss the end of an entire world war? The answer is stranger than you think. Act 2, the war ends, just months later. Japan surrendered. World War II is over. Millions of soldiers returned home. Celebrations erupted across the world. But deep inside the jungle, Hiroo Onoda never got the message. At first, this wasn't unusual. Communication during wartime was difficult. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Then something happened. Aircraft began dropping leaflets from the sky. The papers contained a message. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. Come out of hiding. Most people would have believed it. Onoda didn't. He looked at the papers and reached a different conclusion. Enemy propaganda, a trap. The Americans were trying to fool him. So he ignored them and remained hidden. But the leaflets were only the beginning, soon. The evidence became impossible to ignore. Or so everyone thought. Act 3, the world moves on. Years passed. Onoda occasionally left the jungle. What he saw made no sense. New vehicles, new technology, different clothing, different newspapers, different governments. Everything had changed. But every piece of evidence only strengthened his belief. Because if the enemy wanted him to surrender, of course they would create fake evidence. The more convincing the proof became, the more suspicious he became. Think about that for a second. The evidence that should have saved him actually trapped him. Then something happened that should have ended everything immediately. But somehow, it made the situation even worse. Act 4, the voices from home. Japanese officials never stopped trying. Families wrote letters. Photographs were delivered. Radio broadcasts were played. Recordings from relatives were brought to the island. Imagine hearing the voice of your own family after years in isolation. Most people would break instantly. Onoda didn't. He believed the voices were fake. He believed the recordings were part of an elaborate deception by now. The war had been over for nearly 20 years. Yet he still patrolled the jungle, still carried his rifle, still followed his orders, still waited for Japan to return. At this point, you might be wondering, was he stubborn? Delusional? Brainwashed? Actually, the real reason is far more disturbing. Act 5, the trap inside his mind. Onoda wasn't trapped by the jungle. He was trapped by certainty. Every piece of evidence passed through a single filter. My commander told me never to surrender. Everything else became secondary. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. When people accept evidence supporting their beliefs, and reject evidence challenging them. The longer Onoda stayed hidden, the harder it became to admit he was wrong. Because accepting reality would mean accepting that he had lost nearly 3 decades of his life. So he kept believing, and he kept waiting. Then one day, a young traveler arrived, and everything changed. Act 6: The Impossible Meeting in 1974. A Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki entered the jungle. He had a strange goal. He wanted to find 3 things: Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman. In that order, almost unbelievably, he found Onoda. The 2 men spoke. Suzuki explained that the war had ended decades ago. The world had changed. Japan had changed. Everything had changed. But Onoda refused. There was only one person he would believe: his commanding officer, the man who had given him the original order. Climax. What happened next sounds like fiction. The Japanese government located Onoda's former commander. Now an elderly man, nearly 30 years older. He traveled to the Philippines, walked into the jungle, and stood face to face with the soldier who had been waiting all those years. Then he gave one final order. The war is over. You are relieved of duty. For the first time in 29 years, Hiroo Onoda obeyed. He removed his rifle, handed over his sword, and surrendered. Not in 1945, but in 1974, 29 years after World War II had ended. Think about that. Entire generations were born. Technology transformed the world. Men walked on the moon. And all the while, one soldier remained frozen in a war that no longer existed. Not because he lacked information, but because he trusted one order more than everything he saw. And that may be the most unbelievable part of this story. Because sometimes, the strongest prison isn't made of walls. It's made of beliefs. Case file number 3 closed.